Welcome to A Slob Comes Clean, the podcast. I'm Dana K. White. I blog over at aslobcomesclean.com. That's where I share my personal deslobification process. As I figure out ways to keep my own home under control, I share the truth about cleaning and organizing strategies that actually work in real life for real people who don't love cleaning and organizing. Thanks for joining me today. This is podcast number 220, I think. And I think I'm going to call it Dealing with the Overwhelm When Everything Changes. So I don't know. I mean, are things changing? I feel like we've all been in this time of change, and change is hard, and change is hard when you maybe felt like you were kind of getting things under control and then life happens. And I mean, I don't know. I was going to say I used to resist change, but I'm not sure that I actually don't resist change anymore. I don't know. I feel like you're getting older, you just kind of have to accept it a little bit, but, and just the reality that change is the one constant, right? Anyway, okay, that's enough pontificating about that. But in this conversation that we have today, we're talking about things having changed and refiguring out what you thought you had figured out before, with things being different now. And also you'll hear some really great perspective and thoughts on the Take Your House Back course. So I do want to mention that it is open right now. We don't leave registration open all the time, or we haven't in the past. We're still figuring that out. It's really because there's so much administrative work that happens as people come in that, anyway, so we haven't had it open just ongoing, but it is open right now. And I love hearing her perspective on that. So if you're interested in that, go to takeyourhouseback.com. That's takeyourhouseback.com. I also have the link in the show notes for this podcast. And also, y'all, my new book is out. I'm recording this on Tuesday, and this is the day it came out. So there's reviews up and everything. And I'm just, feeling all the feelings because it's out there in the world. My little book child to be out there on its own without me now. It's just a weird feeling. Also, my microphone, if I sound different, I am sorry about that. My microphone died yesterday, which is just great timing with a book launch because I have all these different interviews going. It actually died in the middle of an interview that I was doing with someone for their podcast. So that was really fun. And so I'm using my camera microphone that I've been using for YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff I'm blathering now. I'm going to stop. I'm just going to let you know that I may sound different. My road is usually very quiet in our new home, and yet it seems like there's some sort of a tractor fest going on because there have been a lot of tractors going by. So who knows what you're hearing. Sorry for the audio. It will be better in the next section of this, what are we doing? A podcast, as you hear the conversation that I had. Okay, get organizing for the rest of us. Yeah. And join Take Your House Back and enjoy this conversation. Okay, here we go. Okay, I am here with Christy. Christy, thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast and talk about your clutter and all that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited that you're here. So tell me a little bit about you, your unique current life situation.
Okay, well, I have 3 children, and I have been married for 22 years, but we are currently going through a divorce. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. It's not what I obviously would have anticipated. I wanted to get married once and be married for life, but there's just some circumstances that can't be overlooked. So it's just the best for both of us, I think. Okay. And so my life has changed a lot recently because I was a stay-at-home mom for 18 plus years. My oldest is 18. She'll be 19 in January. So from the time she was born, I've been staying home. So I have a 17-year-old daughter also, and my son is 14. He has autism. So he is 14 in body and in hormones and everything, but in brain development, he's probably more like 5, 6, maybe 7-ish, somewhere around that age, just a young kid that would still needs a lot of help, especially with life skills and everything that goes along with that diagnosis. He is the life of the party, though. He's hilarious. He keeps us smiling every day. So it's a joy to have him, but it's also a lot of work and a lot of time that I have to spend, because thinking when I had 3 teenagers when they were younger, I thought, well, they're all going to be teenagers at the same time. And then shortly after that, they'll be out of the house, but he will probably live with me for his entire life, if I had to guess. So he just needs that kind of care. So I did just start working part-time. So where I was used to having like a wide open schedule for appointments and for housework and meal planning and grocery shopping, now I have a lot more limited time to do those. So because for one, I do not like to take my son to do errands. So and he is in an all-day therapy school. So he is gone from 8 to 3 every day. But in the evening, if I don't have somebody to help care for him, then it's hard to run errands in the evening also. So,
what are your work hours?
They kind of vary. I work in a salon, so I can kind of make my own hours. But what I've been doing right now is doing like a split shift where I work in the morning for 4 or 5 hours after I drop him off, and then I go pick him up and then bring him home, and my mom helps me care for him in the evening, and then I go back to work for like 3 hours in the evening. So I can almost get a whole 8 hours in that way. But and luckily the salon is closed on Sundays and Mondays. So those days Mondays right now are really busy. I'm like having to schedule all my appointments and all my errands and grocery shopping and everything on that day. So
do you do any grocery pickup instead of shopping in the store?
I have done that, but I kind of prefer to do my own shopping because I find that a lot of times they don't have what I'm looking for, or they have to do substitutes, and I just find it easier for me to do it myself. But if it comes to that, I would do that.
I would definitely say if that, I know we're not even necessarily into the things to talk about yet, but that would take that whole thing off of your plate, like as far as if everything has to be done on Mondays, it's possible to do it in a shorter amount of time at this point. But at the same time, if you love it and that's what you want to do, and sometimes a lot of people love grocery shopping, like enjoy it. So, but it might be worth trying. I think that especially if you tried it a couple of years ago when it was brand new, there are kinks that have been worked out, or maybe there's more stores that have that available than used to. So it might be worth just giving it a shot.
I think I tried it the first time during the pandemic. So obviously probably things were out. So it might be easier now when things are maybe a little more stocked.
Yeah. It's not always perfect. That's for sure. But it definitely is not as bad as it was, in spring of 2020 for sure. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things that are working for you. Some of the things that have made a positive impact in your home.
Well, first of all, just finding you has made the biggest impact, because other books that I had read or looked at, I would read them, but I would never do what they said. And I don't know if that's just because it didn't click with me, or if it wasn't the right time in my life, or what, but one day I just searched in Audible, because I like to listen so I can do other things at the same time. I think I might have put in decluttering or cleaning or organize, something along those lines, and your decluttering at the speed of life came up. So I just ordered that and started listening to it, and I listened to it nonstop until I was done with it. Lot in the car, and then if I would get home and I was still playing, I would just keep it playing and I would do stuff. And so the first thing that I started doing was the visible clutter from that book. And another thing that I used to do is I would read a book, but then this time I was listening and doing it at the same time. So even before I finished decluttering at the speed of life, I was already decluttering. The visible clutter just made so much sense to me. So I just stood at my front door, and the first thing I saw was this bench that we have that we're bad about flat surfaces in our house. So it was a bench, and it has an opening that I now put hats and gloves and stuff in, but you couldn't even get that bench open because there was too much stuff sitting on it. So I just started with that. And it was that one small change just sparked something in me. I'm like, well, I can do something else over here, something else over here. And so when I finished that book, I was like, wait, I got to get some more. So I knew that you had the other book. So I started listening to How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind, because I always joke, because that song resonates with me. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here. So whenever that song comes on, I'm like, this is my theme song, you guys, for this house. So that title, I just love that title. So I started listening to that, and then I listened to the addendum. And as I was listening to the addendum, I just started doing the habits. So
which the addendum that you're talking about is, it's recorded at the end of the audiobook. It's in the regular books too, the paper book, I guess. And it's the 28 days to hope for your home. So I talk you through day by day, building the habits. Yeah.
Yes. So then I just started doing that, and I started doing the dishes, and I can't remember about the laundry, whether I started that during decluttering or if I started it during How to Manage Your Home. It probably depends on which book it's in, where you talk
about. It's in the it's 2 chapters in How to Manage Your Home.
Yeah. So I started doing that after I read that chapter or listened to that chapter. Mm-hmm. And I just took every piece of clothes that we had in our house and made a huge pile, because before finding you, we literally had clothing in every room of our house, and probably every closet too. So I just started making a pile, and I realized how much laundry we actually had that we didn't need. And I was just throwing it in the washer and throwing it in the dryer. And as it came out of the dryer, I was donating as much as I could donate, or throwing away if it wasn't donatable. Yeah. And once I got through that pile, I said, I will never ever do this again. I'm never going to let this laundry get to this point again. And so which is easier
to do when you've just donated and trashed things, when there just is less to even exist.
Yeah. And I would say we probably still have more than what we should have, mm-hmm. but it's a lot more manageable now than it was. And so I started to do somewhat of a laundry day with that. Like I made that I remember in the book, you said your first laundry day is going to probably take you a week or two, which I think it did take me a couple of weeks to get through all that. And then I just started trying to do laundry day. I've had to modify it. And even now I don't really do laundry day per se, but I try to do as much as I can on Sunday and Monday, because those are the 2 longest days mm-hmm. that I have stretch of hours that I have. And then I kind of have a rule for myself, which I started breaking when I started working, because I'm just not home that much on Tuesdays, but I had a rule that it had to get put away by Tuesday, so that my laundry day, which is 3 days technically, was mm-hmm. done. And so, and I, with work clothes and stuff, sometimes we'll have a little load here and there that has to go in on another day, but it's nothing like a huge pile of clothes that needs to get done. So that was
and definitely. I think also that it's actually, I would say it's still laundry day when you have 2 days. Like yeah. it's still laundry day, even if you do it over, it's the everything and an end point. Mm-hmm. Like I'm doing 1 week's worth of laundry. I'm not just, taking the new stuff that gets dirtied every single day so that it never ends, but it's like having that end point of, that's the real actual game changer part about laundry day.
Yeah. And I think one thing I want to ask you about with the laundry is, one thing I struggle with is putting mine away, like really putting it away. Cause like I have a couple of baskets in my closet that a lot of times I'm just like stacking a folded laundry mm-hmm. in that basket and wearing it throughout the week or something. Or I do the thing where I take it off and it's not washable yet, but I'm not wearing it. And I know I do have some hooks in my closet that I'm using for other things, but I have a little basket that sits on my tub, and I kind of put those things in that basket, but it tends to overflow. So I'm like, I need to like get to a point where I'm actually putting some of these back, because I'm not going to wear all of these again soon.
Yeah. And the thing, so do you have drawers where you like should be putting them away, or is the basket actually your storage system?
I have drawers that I do use sometimes, and I have a closet I have stuff that I hang. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of the thing. Like, so I'll take the foldable stuff and just set it in the basket in my closet instead of putting it in the actual dresser drawers.
So, I mean, to me, the thing is, whatever you actually do is what you should be doing. Mm-hmm. But if you want them in the drawers, then one way to force that to happen is to get rid of those baskets so that they don't have a place to go in between. Or if the baskets work really well for you, but it just makes you feel guilty because you've got a dresser full of drawers here that you never actually use, you could get rid of the dresser and just say, this is what I do. I do the baskets, so the other thing too, you said you try to force yourself to get things done, put away by Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I would give it a try to do the fold straight out of the dryer, not put them in a thing, but I balance things on the top of my washer and my dryer as I'm folding, and then go put those things away immediately before I move the stuff from the washer into the dryer.
Okay. Yeah.
Give that a try, because it takes less time than you would expect. And it's completely done, finished, over. They're gone, they're put away. So maybe try that and see which one more still naturally happens, either going into the drawers or going into the baskets. And the other thing too, when you go to put it away in the drawers, if there's clothes in there, but you're never actually using those drawers, those clothes can probably be donated, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I definitely need to get rid of more of my clothes. So that one's a hard one for me. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. I'm like you. I tend to wear the same things over and over, but I'm actually glad that I didn't donate that much now, because now I need some nicer clothes, to where I was wearing sweatpants, leggings, t-shirts a lot when I stayed home. And now I need some more presentable, front desk type casual clothes to wear. So I need to kind of find a balance of how much of each of those I actually need.
Right. And the laundry routine helps you do that. It helps you see what you're actually wearing. Okay. So what's something else? Okay. We talked about habits, following that. Okay. You basically covered everything, right?
Well,
the things that are working really well.
The one habit that is not working for me, or that I don't do very well, is sweeping.
Okay.
So I tried it, and I actually was sweeping my kitchen pretty much every day, but we have hardwood floors throughout the whole downstairs. And then one of our upstairs rooms is hardwood as well. Actually, the one I'm in right now. And, we have 4 dogs and 2 cats, and they're golden retrievers. So they shed nonstop. Yeah. And I don't know whether I was just like, this is pointless, or whether it was just the one thing that I felt like I could put on the back burner, because I was doing the bathrooms and they were staying manageable, and I'm doing the dishes every day, which I still am doing the dishes every day. Good. I'm so excited about that. From the day I started them, I have been doing them every day. So that's over a year now.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Where we used to have a pile in there all the time. So I am really excited about that. And in fact, I get to the point where my kids are like, Mom, you do the dishes all the time. And I'm like, that's because I'd rather do a handful of dishes than 2 sinks full of dishes.
Right.
So
a handful I can get done in a few minutes and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have a lot of space that could be swept, that probably needs to be swept.
Yes.
Because of the dog hair. I get it. So when you are sweeping, what tools are you using to actually sweep?
Well, I'm using a broom and dustpan, and then we also have a Dyson. So sometimes I'll just go around and use the Dyson on the hardwoods.
Do you prefer to use the Dyson, or do you prefer to use
I actually like to sweep. I just don't like to sweep
all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like to use the Dyson as kind of like a backup, because I know it's going to get what I don't get when I sweep. So
okay. Do you think it would help at all if you gave yourself permission to use the Dyson on a daily basis?
Maybe I could try that.
If you feel like, okay, well, that's the thing that kind of makes up for having not done what I was, saying that I was, or meaning to do, I guess, trying that. Also giving yourself permission to sweep just the most visible area, because I think sometimes when it's like, oh my goodness, all of my floors, my entire section of my house is all hardwood floors, which means technically I should be sweeping that, because then so it may mean, yes, there's dog hair in places where there shouldn't be, but at the same time, that visible space, like give myself permission to say, okay, well, what I'm going to do every day is this visible space.
Okay.
And then some days it might go farther than that, but at least I would feel like if somebody knocked on the front door and came in, I wouldn't be like, oh my goodness, I should have been sweeping, because I know I have a German Shepherd and it's similar, as far as like, I cannot believe how much dog hair I'm like, really? So I know she's 3 now. So I have figured out there are times of year when it's worse. And yet there's never a time when it's not. It's always the shedding. So, but kind of go with what's the smallest amount of space that it would be beneficial for me to do this every single day so that it doesn't get to that point. And then that means that when you do work on the whole downstairs, it's not as much. You know what I mean? Like you've already gotten the main thing done consistently. And I don't know, do you have rugs?
We have one rug in our main living space.
Okay. Because sometimes I find that with the rugs, it's like, well, if I'm sweeping, but there's a rug, then that kind of feels like, am I really doing enough? Because with the broom, I'm only sweeping around the rug, but then I can still see dog hair on the rug itself. So that might be one other, purpose in saying, I'm going to use the Dyson every day.
Yeah.
Even just to do this small little thing, which might mean that the Dyson sits out more than it would otherwise. Mm-hmm. But it might be easier if somebody rings the doorbell, might be easier to go put the Dyson away than it is to, oh my goodness, let's vacuum really quick.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. So what are some other things you want to talk about?
I guess, since I have worked through most of the clutter in our house, we have a large home, like 4,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. And I did the course, Take Your House Back or Take Back Your House? I always
It's Take Your House Back. Yeah.
Take Your House Back. So I did that course and I'm actually still part of that group. And just that helped really work through some of the areas. And for anybody out there, I just took it one drawer at a time, one cabinet at a time, because back when I first was going to ask your advice, I was just overwhelmed because, and I know you've answered this question before, like when I would go take something there, that space was probably even more cluttered than the space I was working on. And I just started just like I did with the visible clutter. I started with all the visible clutter first. And then after that, I just one drawer at a time. And I can say now that almost every drawer and closet in our house is at least when you open, I wouldn't be embarrassed if somebody was staying at my house and opened it.
Right.
Where before they were all a disaster. I had just thrown things in there. There was no kind of organization. But now I guess it's more cleaning. Like everything is pretty well picked up most of the time with teenagers, not all of the time, but I feel like I need to be doing more cleaning. And sometimes I just don't have the energy or the time to do the cleaning. And I was trying to do the daily things, like do one thing on Monday that you suggested in your book. And that was working for me for quite a while until recently when I've had to change my schedule. And now I have very little free time and I'm tired. Yeah. So it's hard to kind of work those things back in. So now I'm just, I guess, if you could speak to when you have a schedule change like this, how to kind of get back into those habits of doing maybe one thing daily.
Yeah. I think, so when you'd filled out the form, you said, I need to really get down to the nitty gritty and deep clean. Mm-hmm. And I think that mindset could possibly be what's holding you back because you've seen the value of daily habits of the dishes and how big of an impact that makes on your house overall and keeping things under control. You've seen the benefits of working through your home, which you probably did not do in one big session, right? It was over time, right?
Yeah, months.
Exactly. So, and yet somehow it seems like it can be like, oh, but I need to, it feels like deep clean equals top to bottom, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And having that mentality, having that as being the thing in my head of, okay, well, this is my goal can mean, Well, that's daunting, especially with a 4,000 square foot house. It's like, that's a lot of cleaning. So I think it's that breaking it down and saying, okay, even if I can't do the whole house, it's going to be worth my time to, again, start in the visible areas. Start with the most visible spaces and say, okay, I'm going to work on cleaning those. Another thing too, with your schedule change, it can be hard because it's like, well, what was working in a different phase of life or a different lifestyle? Now everything is different. And you don't feel like every Monday doing laundry and every Tuesday doing, cleaning bathrooms or whatever it is that you were doing. So it's like, okay, I have to rework that. So, what time do you have, whether it's an exact time or it's I'm going to work this around something that I do anyway. So I bring my son, I'm home in the afternoons, right? Is that what you said?
Just for a little bit of time.
Right.
Except for I do have Wednesday evenings. I work Wednesday daytime, but not Wednesday evening. So I have a little bit more of a chunk of time on Wednesdays than I do the other days of the week and Mondays. But on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I do the split shifts where I'm really only home for like 30 minutes by the time I get him home and fed, and then I have to go back. So
I think it's that. But then the exhaustion part is real. Like, I don't want to be like, well, just when you come home, just get it done then. Cause I mean, there may be times where it's like, okay, Wednesday night is my only night where I don't have to work. And the last thing I want to do is clean or whatever. So, I think it's that, give yourself permission to say, instead of getting the bathrooms done, say, okay, I am going to say that I have an hour right now, whether it's on Monday or Sunday or Wednesday night, I have an hour. I'm going to clean for this hour. That means I'm not going to finish. Okay. And I've already known that. And yet I am going to be so much better off if I will clean for this hour. I'm going to start in my most visible space. If you're doing the 5-minute pickups, there's really not as much to do, or, you know what I mean? It's not like it used to be when cleaning actually meant getting through all the 3 layers. You're doing daily stuff. You've gotten clutter out. So I'm going to work for an hour, starting in my most visible space, work on, my most visible bathrooms. And at the end of that hour, I'm going to say, okay, well, my house is better off for having done that hour. If I go longer, great, but that's not my goal. My goal is not to trick myself into working for longer, but to say, okay, I'm going to do an hour or 30 minutes, whatever time that you have that you're like, I'm going to do this because this is better than nothing. And better than nothing is actually really, really powerful. Right. So, it's saying, I am not going to get my whole entire house clean, but I am going to clean, for whatever amount of time that I have, whether it's an hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 3 hours, whatever, and say, but I'm going to not feel guilty to stop at the end of this time. And just to see, what is it that I have gotten done at this point? And there's a lot of power in giving yourself permission to do that. Yeah.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. It makes so much sense because it's really the mindset that I started with. Like, I'm not going to, it's like they say, this house didn't get a mess overnight. So I didn't get it cleaning overnight or decluttered.
Right.
And so I guess just going back to that mindset of a little bit here, a little bit there is going to make a big impact in the long run.
Right. And on a week where you're just like, this is just too much, because you're also, I'm looking at you and you seem to be handling it well, but there's emotional stuff going on with you. If you're going through divorce, this is trauma. It really is, that you're walking through. And so cut yourself a break, like just, and I'm not saying just let your house go, but I'm saying like, give yourself permission to do the minimal, give yourself permission to, as I'm adjusting to this, I am going to say, if I only clean for 30 minutes this week, then, and when we say clean, for anybody who's new here, we're talking about the actual cleaning because you've dealt with the daily stuff. So when you say, I'm going to clean for 30 minutes, you don't have to spend time doing dishes, because that's not part of that 30 minutes. You don't have to spend time picking stuff up and putting it away because you've been doing that as a 5-minute pickup. You also have decluttered. So you're not spending 30 minutes decluttering. You can spend 30 minutes actually sweeping and mopping and cleaning toilets and wiping down, bathrooms. And so you're going to get so much more done in 30 minutes than you would have before you started this, process of changing your home.
Yeah.
But I think giving yourself permission to not feel like it all has to be done at one time, especially with 4,000 square feet, especially with a whole new job that you're adjusting to, especially with the emotional trauma that you're going through, that permission is a big deal.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It helps to process it a little bit.
Because because the problem is when it seems so daunting and then you don't do anything, it only becomes more daunting.
Right.
So, giving yourself permission to do a little bit.
I think that's the sweeping issue I have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just get paralyzed because I'm like, there's so much dog hair and it's not going to matter because it's going to be here tomorrow. And so I think I just gave up on even trying, but I think I like your idea of just doing something is better than nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What's another situation you want to talk about? We've actually kind of covered several of your things, didn't we?
Yeah.
Have I solved all of your problems already?
You have.
Okay. Thank you.
You solved every problem and now I'm good to go. But I did want to
We're joking. We know. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Actually, it's just advice because it was advice that I took from you that has really helped me. And I think you were kind of saying that now with the cleaning, that 15 minutes is a lot of time. Like I used to take, if I only had an hour between doing one thing and having to pick up a kid from school, I didn't think I had time to do anything. And now I've used 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, however long to throw a couple of dishes in the dishwasher that, somebody put in the sink because I always put my dishes straight in the dishwasher now. Mm-hmm. or clearing off our island, which is also a big culprit of getting stuff piled on because it's a flat surface. Yeah. So I just that advice really helped me in shifting my mind to thinking I don't have to have 3 hours when I can just make sure I'm putting stuff away. And also even in the mornings when I'm rushing around and I have 1 hour to do 15 different things, it takes 2 seconds to put something back in the refrigerator or in the cabinet that later on I'm not going to have 100 things to put away. So just that mind shift of you don't have to have a lot of time. You can take a 5-minute pause or 5-minute break, 15-minute break that you have to get a
And so
done.
Let's celebrate the fact that you had already figured out the power of changing that mindset and of looking for those awkward pauses before you got to this place mm-hmm. where now life is completely different than it used to be. That's I'm sure you're experiencing the reality of, okay, when you were a stay-at-home mom was when you learned that it's not about having all the time in the world. Kind of when even though we all know that as a stay-at-home mom, you don't have all the time in the world. It's only people who aren't stay-at-home moms that think that stay-at-home moms have all the time in the world. Right. But you learned that when you did have that, you learned that it was more about what you did as opposed to having time to do it.
Yeah.
And so now that you have different schedule and less time, you can take what you learned there and, plug it in to what you're doing. Not that it's not a challenge. It's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
To make that adjustment and to fit it in amidst this really busy life. But it wasn't the answer just being a stay-at-home mom. And so you can apply that, what you learned here. So
yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think I covered everything. I'm pretty good with the clutter now, which was my biggest problem in the beginning. So I'm pretty good with that. And another thing that I have liked in meeting you or learning about you was being introduced to Dawn and Cass, because I've been able to take their strategies and now I feel a lot more organized. I'm definitely not minimal. I'm not to Dawn's level of minimalism, but I do look at things a lot differently now. And I'm able to donate things or throw them away, where before I held on to stuff just because it was useful. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
No, I love that. That's great. And tell me what you like about being a kindred spirit, being a patron.
I love before and after pictures, and I love to encourage people. I like to post before and after pictures, and I love to encourage other people that have posted before and after pictures. And because it feels like you're not alone, for one thing, and it feels like almost like you have a support group, I guess. Like, I'm not the only one that used to have stuff everywhere in my house. And I just love that everybody is so kind and that they understand and they are so encouraging to give advice, or this is what's worked for me. This is where I found this item. And I'm definitely one that will do that. Like, if I know a strategy that has worked for me, I will put it out there and help try to give other people advice, because I know it's helped me so much to get the advice from you and others.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me, that was huge for me when I was starting out, is having a place to record what I was doing and not doing, and figuring out what was working and what wasn't working. And I feel like the Facebook group of patrons gives people the place to do that, who maybe don't want to do a whole, blog on it or something, but just, when you want to, you can kind of process things through, sharing it with that group. So
yeah, it's great to have the accountability.
Yeah. It is, but non-pressure accountability.
Yeah, right.
So, for those of us who rebel against that pressure. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really great conversation, and I love hearing about your success. I love hearing how you've really worked hard on your house, and I can just see that confidence in you. And I like that.
Thank you.
Encourages me so much.
I hope you loved that conversation. I always write notes. I love all of these conversations. I hope you do too. But I always write notes, kind of in my stuff, and just saying, okay, remember this, or ask Rachel to take out whatever. But I just remember, I just loved this conversation, and I hope that you did too. And I appreciated her willingness to come on and to talk just about what's been going on. So, okay, don't forget, you can join Take Your House Back, which obviously she talked about. Go to takeyourhouseback.com, get in on that. Also, get my new book, Organizing for the Rest of Us. Somebody described it as a Cliff Notes version of all of my strategies, and I loved that description. I also loved when somebody was saying, the other ones are like theory and thinking it through, and this one's just like practical, so we'll see if you like it or not. I hope you love it. All right. I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.